The slap echoed across the council chamber like a thunderclap. Commander Jack Reeves didn't flinch. His jaw tightened, a muscle twitching beneath his 5 o'clock shadow, but his eyes, those cold, gray eyes that had seen 3 colony massacres in 6 months, stayed locked on the towering Krethian warrior who just struck him. Galactic Counselor Vrathak stood 9 feet tall, his obsidian exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's holographic lights. 4 arms, mandibles that could crush titanium. A military record spanning 200 years across 40 star systems. He sneered down at the human, expecting fear, expecting submission. Jack's voice came out quiet, dangerously quiet. You just made your last mistake. The chamber, filled with representatives from 17 species, broadcast live to 4 billion worlds, went silent. 2 seconds later, Vrathak's skull fragments were embedded in the marble floor. But that moment, that was just the end. To understand how humanity brought the galaxy to its knees, you need to know how we got here. And if you're watching Monster HFY, you're about to witness the most savage, calculated display of human warfare the stars have ever seen. So smash that like button, drop a comment telling us which alien species you think underestimated us the most, and subscribe because this story gets darker before it gets light. The question isn't whether humanity warned them. The question is why the galaxy thought we were bluffing. Let me take you back 6 months. Back to when Commander Jack Reeves still believed in diplomacy. 6 months earlier, United Earth Space Command. Geneva Station Commander Jack Reeves stood before the full assembly of the Galactic Concordance. Humanity's formal petition, displayed on holographic screens behind him. 5 years of meticulous documentation, 15,000 pages of evidence. Video testimony from survivors who'd watched their children dragged onto slaver ships while Concordance peacekeepers turned away. The council chamber was a monument to bureaucratic arrogance. Vaulted ceilings made of some crystalline material that refracted light into rainbow patterns. Seats arranged in concentric circles of ascending importance, each species positioned according to their political weight. Humans occupied the outermost ring, the lowest tier. We'd been members for 12 years. We'd followed every protocol, paid every tariff, respected every treaty. And they'd protected exactly none of our frontier colonies. Jack's voice carried across the chamber with military precision. For the record, and this statement is being transmitted on all open channels. Time-stamped and legally binding, the United Earth Government formally requests Concordance intervention in the Outer Rim incidents. 14 human colonies have been attacked in the past 18 months. 63,000 civilians are confirmed dead or missing. We have irrefutable evidence linking these attacks to Krethian raiding parties operating with the knowledge and tacit approval of their high command. He paused, letting the translated audio catch up across 17 different languages. We are requesting immediate sanctions, a formal investigation, and the deployment of peacekeeping forces to protect our remaining settlements. We are also requesting that the Concordance honor Article 7 of the Membership Charter, which guarantees military assistance to member species under sustained attack. Counselor Vrathak, the same Krethian who would slap Jack 6 months later, laughed. The sound was like rocks grinding together. The human brings us ghost stories, Vrathak announced, his translator rendering his clicks and chittering into cold, mechanical standard. Frontier colonists are always unreliable. They see pirates and call them armies. They lose cargo to storms and blame sabotage. The Krethian Empire has detailed logs proving our vessels were nowhere near human space during these alleged incidents. Jack didn't raise his voice. Then you won't mind if we inspect those logs? We mind very much, said Counselor S.H. Lara, a serpentine Visani whose species controlled 3 major trade routes. Her scales shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, a sign of amusement. Humanity has been a Concordance member for barely a decade. You occupy 16 systems. 16. The Krethian Empire spans 400. Do you understand how absurd it sounds when you accuse them of genocide? I'm not accusing, Jack said calmly. I'm stating documented fact. We have debris from Krethian warships. We have intercepted communications. We have survivors who identified their attackers by species-specific biomarkers. This isn't speculation. This is evidence. The chamber erupted in a chorus of whistles, clicks, and synthesized objections. Humans are known for their paranoia, obviously fabricated to gain sympathy votes, typical mammalian emotional overreaction. Jack waited for the noise to die down. Then he pulled up a new hologram, a young girl, maybe 8 years old, staring into the recorder with haunted eyes. "This is Emma Chen," Jack said quietly. Recorded 3 days before the attack on New Guangzhou, she wanted to send a message to her grandmother on Earth. He played the video. Emma's voice filled the chamber, bright and hopeful, talking about the flowers she'd planted in the colony greenhouse, talking about her birthday next week. Then Jack played the next file. The same recorder found in the ruins. Audio only, screaming, weapons fire, Emma calling for her mother, then silence. New Guangzhou had a population of 4,000, Jack continued, his voice still perfectly level. "We've recovered 112 bodies, the rest are gone. Taken or vaporized, we don't know. But we do know the attack ships used Krethian energy signatures. We know the boarding parties used Krethian combat protocols. We know because some of our people survived long enough to fight back and record what they saw." He turned to face Vrathak directly. "So here's how this works. You have 30 days to respond to these allegations. 30 days to provide access to your vessel logs and fleet movements. 30 days to either prove your innocence or accept responsibility. If you refuse, if you obstruct, if you delay, humanity will consider it an admission of guilt, and we will act accordingly." Vrathak's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. "You'll act accordingly, you and what fleet, human?" Jack's expression didn't change. "The one we've been building while you weren't paying attention." The chamber went quiet again. Not silent, quiet in the way a room full of predators goes still when they spot something unexpected. "Are you threatening this council?" S.H. Lara asked, her bioluminescence shifting to deep crimson. "No, counselor, I'm giving you a warning. A legal, formal, recorded warning. Protect our people or we'll protect them ourselves. Those are the only 2 options. Choose." He gathered his documentation, turned, and walked out. Behind him, the council dissolved into chaos. What none of them knew, what Jack had been very careful not to mention, was that the fleet he'd referenced wasn't theoretical. It was already deployed, 30 warships. Positioned at jump coordinates no alien species had bothered to map. Because they passed through radiation zones, most ships couldn't survive. Humanity had reverse-engineered our own FTL drives specifically to use those routes. We'd been preparing for this conversation for 5 years, and Jack Reeves had just started the clock. 30 days. The Concordants wasted 29 of them debating whether humans were even capable of building a real military. On day 30, they got their answer. Day 31, Krethian Military Outpost Delta 7. The attack came at 400 station time, during the shift change when half the garrison was asleep and the other half was distracted. No one saw the human ships until they were already inside the defensive perimeter. The UES Retribution, a destroyer that shouldn't have existed according to every intelligence report the Krethians possessed, dropped out of FTL 300 kilometers above the outpost. Its weapons were already hot. Its shields were configured in a pattern no alien engineer had seen before. Captain Sarah Chen, Emma's aunt, though that detail wasn't public knowledge yet, gave exactly one order: light them up. The outpost's communications array vanished in a sphere of superheated plasma. Then the sensor grid, then the ammunition depot, 3 minutes, surgical, precise. Then the retribution broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Chen of the United Earth Space Command. You have harbored vessels responsible for the massacre of 14 human colonies. You have refused to cooperate with the Concordance investigation. Under Article 12 of the Sol Accords, you are hereby classified as hostile combatants. You have 10 minutes to evacuate non-combat personnel. After that, this facility will be reduced to its component atoms." The Krethian base commander, a veteran named Ralthuk, actually laughed when he heard the message. "1 destroyer," he growled to his tactical officer. "They send 1 destroyer against a fortified military installation. These humans are suicidal." His tactical officer, younger and less confident, studied the sensor readings. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures. Their reactor output is." "It doesn't make sense. It's reading higher than a battle cruiser." Sensor malfunction, fire all batteries. The outpost's defensive cannons opened up. 12 heavy plasma projectors, coordinated fire, enough destructive power to crack a small moon. Every shot splashed harmlessly against the Retribution's shields. Ralthuk stared at his displays, mandibles frozen mid-click. What in the depths? Sir, detecting multiple jump signatures, the rest of Earth's fleet arrived. 29 warships emerging from FTL in perfect formation, positioning themselves in a three-dimensional net around the outpost. Not attacking, just waiting. Captain Chen's voice came through again, colder this time. 9 minutes. I suggest you start evacuating. Galactic Concordance emergency session. 47 hours after first strike, Jack Reeves stood in the same chamber where he delivered his warning 31 days ago. The same counselors who dismissed him now stared at holographic footage of 12 Krethian military installations reduced to debris fields. 0 casualties, every facility had been given time to evacuate, but the strategic damage was catastrophic. Humanity had just decapitated the Krethian military's entire frontier logistics network. Vrathek was on his feet, all 4 arms gesturing violently. This is an act of war. An unprovoked assault on sovereign Krethian territory. Unprovoked, Jack's voice cut through the noise like a blade. I gave you 30 days, you gave us silence. Article 12 of the Concordance Charter is very clear. When a member species faces genocide and the Council fails to act, that species retains the right to self-defense. We invoked that right. Legally, publicly, with full documentation. You destroyed military installations. We destroyed the infrastructure you used to support raiding operations against our colonies. And we did it with 0 Krethian deaths because, unlike your raiders, we don't slaughter civilians. Jack pulled up new hollows. These are the evacuation records. Every Krethian soldier and support staff member was safely retrieved before we fired a single shot. We even provided transport for the 3 installations that didn't have enough escape pods. S.H. Lara's scales flickered through a rapid sequence of colors Jack's cultural briefings identified as confusion and alarm. You're saying you attacked 12 military bases without killing anyone. That's exactly what I'm saying, because we're not monsters, we're not raiders. We're not the species that drags children onto slaver ships. He turned to face the full council. But make no mistake, this was a demonstration, a warning shot. You wanted to know if humanity could back up our threats. Now you know. This is madness, Counselor Threnok of the Quarathi Collective hissed, his translator converting his electromagnetic pulses into words. You've militarized your entire species over a handful of colony disputes. 63,000 dead is not a dispute, Jack said quietly. It's a massacre. And you all sat here and did nothing while it happened. So we did something. We hit the installations supporting the raiding operations. We've crippled their logistics. And we're not stopping until every human colony has the protection this council should have provided from the beginning. Vrathak's eyes, all 6 of them, fixed on Jack with undisguised hatred. You think your little surprise attack changes anything? The Krethian Empire has 400 systems. We have military traditions spanning millennia. You have 16 colonies and delusions of grandeur. Jack smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Counselor, we have something you clearly don't. And what is that? Accurate intelligence? Jack pulled up a new display, ship movements, supply chain analysis. Encrypted communications that shouldn't have been decryptable. We know exactly how many vessels you have, where they're stationed, and how long it takes to mobilize them. We know your command structure. We know your weapons capabilities. We know which of your admirals are competent and which ones bought their positions through family connections. The chamber went very, very quiet. We've been watching you for 5 years, Jack continued. Learning, analyzing, preparing. You thought we were filing complaints because that's all weak species do, but we were documenting. Building a case, and more importantly, building a military force designed specifically to counter your tactics. He turned to address the entire council. So here's the new reality. Every Krethian vessel that comes within 10 light-years of a human colony will be considered hostile. Every installation supporting raiding operations will be targeted. And every species on this council that continues to shield the Krethians from consequences will be considered complicit. You can't dictate terms to the concordance, S.H. Lara protested. I'm not dictating, I'm informing. You had 30 days to make a choice. You chose inaction, so now humanity makes our own choices. And we choose to survive. Jack started walking toward the exit, then paused. Oh, and Counselor Vrathak, there's something else you should know. What? Those 12 installations we hit. That was just Phase 1. Phase 2 begins in 72 hours. I suggest you use that time wisely. Maybe actually look at the evidence we provided. Maybe realize we're not bluffing. Maybe understand that when humans say, never again, we mean it. He left the chamber for the second time in a month. This time, nobody laughed. UES Command Carrier Defiance. 36 hours later, Jack stood in the Tactical Operations Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing fleet positions across 18 sectors. His XO, Commander Marcus Webb, approached with a datapad. Sir, we're getting reports from Frontier Scouts. The Krethians are mobilizing. Looks like a major fleet concentration forming in the Tertian sector. Jack studied the tactical overlay. Numbers, at least 80 capital ships, maybe more. They're pulling vessels from garrison duty across their empire. Good, that means fewer ships harassing our colonies. Jack zoomed in on the Tertian formation. What's their projected vector? That's the thing, sir. They're not heading toward our space. They're moving toward Concordance Central. Jack's expression hardened. They're going to make a show of force, try to intimidate the Council into sanctioning us instead of them. Will it work? Probably. Most of those counselors would rather maintain the status quo than admit they've been protecting raiders for years. Jack pulled up a different display. But it doesn't matter. We're not asking for permission anymore. A new officer approached, younger, with the nervous energy of someone about to deliver bad news. Commander Reeves, we've got a situation. One of our deep space listening posts picked up a distress call from the colony on Theta Proxima. They're under attack. Every muscle in Jack's body went rigid. Theta Proxima. That's inside the safe zone we established after the initial strikes. Yes, sir. The attackers are Krethian, but the energy signatures don't match their military vessels. Looks like privateers. Raiders with official military-grade equipment, but no official transponders. Plausible deniability, Marcus muttered. They're hitting us with irregulars so they can claim the Empire isn't involved. Jack's hands clenched into fists. Theta Proxima had a population of 7,000, mostly agricultural workers. Families, how long until we can get ships there? Nearest flotilla is the Retribution Group, 8 hours at maximum FTL. Too long. Jack pulled up the colony's defensive status. Minimal. Some small arms, basic shields, nothing that could hold off a coordinated assault for more than minutes. The tactical officer cleared his throat. Sir, there is one ship closer, the Undertow. She's a stealth reconnaissance vessel, currently in the next system conducting deep space mapping. What's her armament? Minimal. She's built for evasion, not combat. But she could reach Theta Proxima in 90 minutes. Jack didn't hesitate. Get me Captain Rodriguez. Now, the holographic comm activated, showing a woman in her 40s with sharp features and tired eyes. Behind her, the cramped bridge of a reconnaissance ship hummed with activity. Commander Reeves, she said, I'm guessing this isn't a social call. Theta Proxima is under attack. You're the closest ship. I need you to buy time until the Retribution Group arrives. Captain Rodriguez studied him for a long moment. Sir, the Undertow has exactly 4 torpedo tubes and point defense lasers. We're a scout ship going up against what I'm guessing is at least 3 raider vessels with full combat loadouts. I know what I'm asking. Captain, my crew is 12 people, and there are 7,000 people on Theta Proxima. Including children. Rodriguez's jaw tightened, then she nodded. We'll do what we can, Rodriguez out. The comm went dark. Marcus looked at Jack. Sir, sending a recon ship against raiders is, I know, Jack's voice was hollow, but it's all we have. And if we don't act, Theta Proxima becomes another New Guangzhou. The tactical display updated. The Undertow's icon shifted course, accelerating toward Theta Proxima at emergency speed. Jack stared at it, knowing he'd just potentially sent 12 people to their deaths. Knowing he'd do it again if he had to. Because that's what command meant, impossible choices. Calculated sacrifices, and the hope, the desperate, fragile hope, that somehow against all odds his people would find a way to win. The undertow jumped to FTL, vanishing from the display. Jack checked the chronometer. 90 minutes until arrival, 8 hours until reinforcements. He started counting the seconds. Theta Proxima Colony. 89 minutes later, Captain Alina Rodriguez brought the undertow out of FTL at the absolute edge of the system's gravity well, sensors already scanning for the raiders. What she found made her stomach drop. Not 3 raider vessels, 5, and they were already in orbit, bombardment underway. Tactical, she snapped. Give me a breakdown. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Hayes, was a young man who'd been on his first deep space assignment when Earth started mobilizing. He'd learned his trade during 5 years of the most intensive military buildup humanity had ever attempted. His voice stayed steady despite what the sensors were showing. 5 vessels, Corvette-class Crethian energy signatures but modified hulls. Heavy weapons for their size, plasma cannons, missile batteries. They're firing on the colony's shield generators. Current colony shields are at 40% and dropping fast. Rodriguez calculated angles, vectors, odds. All the math came up the same way, suicide. Com, open a channel to the raiders. All frequencies. Channel open, ma'am. Attention Crethian vessels, this is Captain Alina Rodriguez of the United Earth Space Command. You are attacking a civilian population in violation of Concordance Law and the Saul Accords. Cease fire immediately and withdraw or face military consequences. The response came quickly, translated from Crethian combat clicks into cold mechanical standard. This is Captain Threllock of the free ship Bone Harvester. We recognize no human authority. Withdraw or be destroyed. Bone Harvester. Rodriguez had read the intelligence reports. Threllock was a privateer who'd operated in the Outer Rim for 30 years. At least 7 confirmed colony attacks. He sold survivors to the illegal genetic experimentation markets on the fringe worlds. Below on Theta Proxima, 7,000 people huddled in shelters that wouldn't survive another 10 minutes of bombardment. Rodriguez looked at her crew, 12 faces, young, scared, professional. They'd all volunteered for this. They all knew the odds. Hayes, give me firing solutions on their lead ship. Helm, plot us an intercept course. Engineering, I need every ounce of power you can feed to weapons and shields. We're about to make 5 ships very angry at us. Her XO, Lieutenant Commander Park, a veteran who'd served in the merchant fleet before joining Earth's new military, raised an eyebrow. Ma'am, we can't possibly. We don't need to win, Commander. We just need to buy 8 hours or die trying. Park held her gaze, then nodded. Understood. For the record, it's been an honor serving with you. Save the eulogies, we're not dead yet. Rodriguez pulled up the tactical display. Hayes, I want you to target their sensor arrays, not their hulls. We're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to blind them and make them waste time hunting us. Hayes's eyes widened slightly. Hit and fade, use the asteroid belt as cover. Exactly, we're a stealth ship, let's use it. She turned to her helm officer. Chen, how well do you know this system? Surveyed it personally last month, Captain. I can navigate the asteroid field with my eyes closed. Good, because that's where we're going, weapons free. Target their sensors, make them bleed for every meter. The undertow dove toward Theta Proxima, a small dark shape against the void, weapons charging. The raiders noticed immediately. Threllock's voice crackled across comm. A single human scout ship, they sent a scout to fight 5 warships. Their desperation is pathetic. Then ignore us, Rodriguez muttered. I dare you. She didn't have to dare long. The undertow fired 4 torpedoes in rapid succession, not at the raiders' hulls, at their external sensor pods. 3 hits. 2 raiders suddenly went partially blind, their long-range scanning capabilities crippled. Threllock screamed something untranslatable, and all 5 raiders broke formation, turning to pursue the undertow. Below, the bombardment of Theta Proxima stopped. 7,000 lives, Rodriguez whispered to herself. Make it worth it. The undertow plunged into the asteroid field with 5 very angry raiders in pursuit. Galactic Concordance Central, same time Counselor S.H. Lara, watched the tactical feed from Theta Proxima with a growing sense of dread. Her intelligence network, carefully cultivated over 3 centuries, had flagged the human distress call and the subsequent military movements. 1 scout ship against 5 raiders. It was suicide. And yet she couldn't look away. The undertow danced through the asteroid field like a creature born to it, weaving between spinning rocks, using gravitational eddies and sensor shadows to stay one step ahead of its pursuers. Every few minutes it would emerge just long enough to fire another salvo, always at sensors, always degrading the raiders' ability to coordinate. "They're not trying to win," she said aloud, though her only company was her personal AI assistant. "Clarification requested," the AI responded. "The human ship, it's deliberately drawing fire, sacrificing itself to protect the colony." SH Lara's scales flickered through a pattern her species associated with cognitive dissonance. Why would they do that? It's 12 lives against 7,000. The tactical math is sound, but what species actually makes that choice? Humanity's military doctrine appears to prioritize civilian protection over force preservation, the AI noted. Records show similar patterns in their pre-space warfare. Naval vessels positioning themselves between enemy fire and civilian ships. Soldiers holding defensive positions against overwhelming odds to allow evacuations. They call it holding the line. SH Lara pulled up older files, the evidence Jack Reeves had presented. Video testimony she'd dismissed as emotional manipulation. Survivor accounts she'd classified as unreliable. She watched them now with different eyes. A Krethian raider boarding a colony ship, dragging a human child toward a cargo bay while the child's mother screamed. A Concordance peacekeeper vessel nearby, receiving the distress call, marking it as low priority and continuing on its patrol route. Another file. Intercepted communications from a Krethian privateer fleet discussing human settlements like livestock. The young ones bring higher prices. The adults are useful for labor. Take what you can carry, and another. A formal complaint filed by human diplomats, listing 19 separate incidents where Concordance peacekeepers had failed to respond to distress calls from human colonies. 19 times humanity had followed the rules, trusted the system, and been abandoned. "We failed them," SH Lara said quietly. "Clarification requested. We failed them. They came to us for help. They provided evidence. They followed every protocol. And we dismissed them because they were new, because they were small. Because protecting them would have complicated our trade relationships with the Krethians." She pulled up the live feed from Theta Proxima again. The undertow was still fighting, still alive, but 2 of the raiders had cornered it against a large asteroid cluster. Nowhere left to run. SH Lara's scales went white, her species' expression of shame. "Theta Proxima asteroid field shields at 15%, Hayes reported, his voice tight. "Hull breaches on decks 2 and 4. Engineering reports reactor stress at critical levels." Rodriguez stared at the tactical display. They'd bought 6 hours, not enough. The Retribution group was still 2 hours out, 2 more hours. 7,000 people, 12 crew. "Chen, give me one more miracle. Captain, there's nowhere left to wait." The helm officer's fingers flew across his controls. "There's a debris field from an old comet impact. Dense ice fragments. If we can reach it, we might be able to use it as cover long enough to do it." The undertow dove toward the debris field, trailing atmosphere from its hull breaches. Behind them, the 5 raiders closed in, weapons hot. Threlok's voice filled the comm. "You fought well, human, but this is over. Surrender and I'll make your deaths quick." Rodriguez thought about Emma Chen, about New Guangzhou, about 63,000 dead and a concordance that had done nothing. She thought about 7,000 colonists who'd trusted Earth to protect them. "Helm," she said quietly, "put us on a collision course with their lead ship, full acceleration." Park stared at her. "Captain, if we're going to die, we're taking at least one of these bastards with us. The colonists deserve that much." The crew exchanged glances. Then, one by one, they nodded. Hayes armed every remaining weapon. Chen plotted the course. The engineering team diverted all power to engines and forward shields. The undertow turned, no longer fleeing but charging directly at the bone harvester. Threlok's confident taunting turned to alarm. "What are they? All ships fire." "Kill that ship before." The undertow accelerated to ramming speed. And then, exactly 1 hour and 53 minutes early, the cavalry arrived. The UES Retribution and 6 escort destroyers dropped out of FTL in perfect formation, their weapons already tracking targets. Captain Sarah Chen's voice cut across all frequencies, cold and absolute. All Crethian vessels. You have 10 seconds to cut engines and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that fires, runs, or makes any aggressive move will be reduced to its component atoms. This is your only warning. The 5 raiders, caught completely off guard, hesitated. Threlok broke first. The Bone Harvester tried to jump to FTL. The Retribution's main cannon erased it from existence. One shot. Clinical, absolute. The other 4 raiders surrendered immediately. Rodriguez collapsed back in her chair, hands shaking. Chen, get us to the colony. We need to assess. Captain, Hayes's voice was strange. You should see this. He pulled up the sensor logs. The Retribution group had been 8 hours away. Standard FTL speeds, they should have arrived exactly when projected. But they hadn't used standard FTL. The ship's reactors were showing heat signatures consistent with emergency overload, the kind of power output that would have burned through fuel reserves at 10 times the normal rate. The kind of acceleration that should have ripped the hulls apart. Captain Chen had pushed her entire task force to the absolute breaking point, risking catastrophic failure to arrive early. To save 12 lives, to save 1 ship, Rodriguez started laughing. It came out half-sob. "Ma'am," Park asked carefully. "We're not just fighting to win," Rodriguez said. "We're fighting because this is who we are. No one left behind, no matter the cost." She opened a channel to the Retribution. "Captain Chen, this is Captain Rodriguez." "Thank you for—" "Save it," Sarah Chen interrupted. "Get your people to safety. We've got prisoners to interrogate. I want to know who sent them. I want to know who gave them the intelligence on Theta Proxima's location. And I want to know who thought attacking human civilians was still a viable strategy." A pause. "And Rodriguez, your crew just bought 7,000 people a future. That kind of courage doesn't get thanked. It gets remembered." Chen out. The comm went dark. Below, on Theta Proxima, people emerged from their shelters and stared up at the sky where human warships now stood between them and death. For the first time in 18 months, humanity's colonies had real protection. Not from the Concordance, from ourselves. Concordance Council Chamber. 72 hours after Theta Proxima, the emergency session was packed. Not just counselors, but military advisors, trade representatives, and, for the first time in Concordance history, live media feeds from across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see what humanity would do next. Jack Reeves walked to the center of the chamber, and this time he wasn't alone. Captain Sarah Chen stood beside him. Captain Elena Rodriguez, arm in a medical brace from her injuries during the Theta Proxima battle, stood on his other side. Behind them, a full honor guard of 12 officers, each one representing a different human colony that had been attacked. Vrathak was already on his feet, mandibles clicking aggressively. "This council will not be intimidated by a show of—" "Sit down," Jack said. 2 words, quiet, absolute. Vrathak actually sat. Jack activated a holographic display that filled the entire center of the chamber. "For the past 72 hours, we've been interrogating the raiders we captured at Theta Proxima. Threlok and his crew were very cooperative once they realized we weren't bluffing about our enhanced interrogation protocols." The hologram shifted to show Threlok in a holding cell, speaking to an unseen interrogator. His translated words scrolled across the display. "Paid by Crethian military intelligence, yes. They provide us with colony locations, defensive capabilities, optimal strike times. We hit the target, they get a percentage of the profits from selling the survivors. It's been the arrangement for years. Dozens of privateers have the same deal." S.H. Lara's scales went through a rapid series of color changes. Several other counselors began speaking at once. Jack waited for them to quiet down. Then he continued. "We also recovered the navigation logs from all 4 captured ships. Would you like to guess where they'd been in the past 18 months? He didn't wait for an answer. The hologram populated with routes, jump coordinates, dates, and timestamps, every single attack on a human colony mapped out in perfect detail. New Guangzhou, New Shanghai, Theta Centauri. Epsilon Station, Henderson's World. Jack's voice grew colder with each name. 14 attacks, all conducted by privateers working directly for the Crethian Empire. All paid for with official military funds, all provided with intelligence from Crethian intelligence networks. Vrathak stood again, all 4 arms spread. "These are lies. Fabrications by desperate humans trying to—" We have the bank records, Sarah Chen said quietly. Threlok was very thorough. He kept receipts. Payment transfers directly from Krethian military accounts to privateering fleets. Dates, amounts, authorization codes. She looked directly at Vrathak. Would you like us to cross-reference them with your official budget reports? The chamber went silent. Jack pulled up another display. This one showed a Krethian military officer, not a privateer but an actual uniformed commander, standing on the bridge of a warship. This is Admiral Krathon, Jack said. Captured yesterday when we raided the Krethian listening post in the Outer Rim. He was coordinating the privateering operations, providing real-time intelligence on human colony movements, ensuring the raiders knew exactly when our ships would be out of position. The recording played. Krathon spoke in harsh Krethian combat clicks, his translator rendering it into standard. Humans are soft, emotional. They'll file complaints and cry to the concordance, but they lack the spine for real war. We can bleed them dry through privateers, and they'll never have the courage to strike back at our actual military. Jack stopped the playback. That was recorded 8 weeks ago. 3 days before the attack on Theta Proxima that killed 1,800 people. He turned to face the full council. The Krethian Empire has been conducting a systematic campaign of genocide against human colonies. Not directly, that would risk concordant sanctions. But through privateers they fund, equip, and direct. And you expect this council to take the word of criminals and prisoners? Vrathak demanded. No, Jack said. I expect you to take the word of your own surveillance systems. A new hologram appeared. This one showing Concordance peacekeeping logs, official records that should have been encrypted and secure. For the past 5 years, we've been developing advanced computer intelligence systems. Necessary, given that we're a young species trying to survive in a galaxy that clearly wants us dead. One of those systems specializes in data analysis and cryptography. Jack smiled without humor. Turns out your Concordance-wide surveillance network isn't as secure as you thought. Counselor Threnok's electromagnetic field pulsed with alarm. You hacked Concordance Central Security. We observed patterns. We analyzed public data. We found interesting correlations. The hologram shifted to show peacekeeping deployment patterns. Every time a human colony was attacked, Concordance peacekeepers were conveniently deployed elsewhere. Every time we filed a distress call, it was marked as low priority. Every time we requested assistance, the response was delayed by bureaucratic processes that somehow never delayed anyone else's requests. SH Lara's scales had gone completely white. You're saying the Concordance was complicit. I'm saying someone was. Whether it's corruption, political pressure, or simple bias against young species, I don't know. But the pattern is undeniable. Jack pulled up more data. 73 distress calls from human colonies in 18 months. Average response time for Concordance peacekeepers, 14 hours. Average response time for similar calls from Krethian, Visani, or Kwarathi colonies, 90 minutes. The silence was absolute. Jack let it stretch. Then he pulled up one final display. Footage from New Guangzhou, the colony's final transmission, not the sanitized version he'd shown before, the complete recording. Children screaming. Parents fighting with bare hands against armored Krethian privateers. A Concordance peacekeeper ship receiving the distress call, acknowledging it. And then, this was the part that made Jack's hands shake every time he watched it, marking it as non-critical and continuing to its scheduled patrol route. 300 people died while a Concordance ship flew past, close enough to have intervened in minutes. That ship's captain, Jack said, his voice barely above a whisper, was Counselor SH Lara's nephew. Every eye in the chamber turned to the Visani counselor. SH Lara's scales flickered through patterns of shame and grief. I didn't know. He said it was a false alarm. That human colonists were known for exaggerating threats. He was following policy, Jack interrupted. Your policy, the Concordance's policy, humans are a minor species. Protecting us might complicate trade relationships, might create political friction, so our people died by the thousands. While this council debated whether we were worth saving, he deactivated the hologram. But we're done asking for permission. We're done filing complaints. We're done trusting a system that failed us 73 times. Jack's voice grew harder. The Krethian Empire will answer for what they've done. Every privateer fleet they funded will be hunted down. Every military officer who participated in this campaign will face trial. And every concordance official who enabled this through negligence or corruption will be held accountable. You cannot possibly threaten, Vrathak began. I'm not threatening, Jack said. I'm informing you of what's already happening. He pulled up a star map. Red markers appeared across Krethian space, dozens of them. As we speak, human special operations teams are hitting every privateering base, every black market slave trading hub, and every military installation linked to the raiding operations. We're not interested in conquering Krethian territory. We're interested in justice. Vrathak's mandibles spread wide in fury. This is an act of war. The Empire will mobilize our full fleet. Please do, Sarah Chen said. We've been mapping your fleet movements for 5 years. We know where every ship is stationed. We know your response protocols. We know which admirals are competent and which ones are political appointees. And we know that if you commit your full fleet to attacking humanity, you'll leave your other borders vulnerable. She pulled up new data. The Korathi Collective has territorial disputes with you in the Korvan sector. The Visani Consortium has trade grievances going back 80 years. The Thren species has mining rights conflicts in 3 systems. You want to fight humanity? Go ahead. But the moment your fleets move toward our space, every species you've bullied or dismissed for the past 2 centuries will see an opportunity. You would incite a galactic war, S.H. Lara whispered. No, Jack said. We're preventing one, because here's what happens if this continues. We keep hitting your operations. You keep escalating. Eventually, someone uses a weapon they shouldn't. A colony gets completely wiped out, billions die, and the entire galaxy descends into chaos. He deactivated all the displays. Or, and here's a radical idea, the Concordance actually does its job. You sanction the Krethian Empire for state-sponsored terrorism. You establish real protections for member species. You create accountability for peacekeepers who ignore distress calls. You prove that this council is actually capable of maintaining order. Vrathak laughed. And if we refuse, if the Empire decides to teach you the price of your arrogance, Jack met his gaze. Then you'll learn why humans have a saying, never back a cornered animal. He paused. We've been patient, we've been diplomatic, we've followed your rules, and our patience is exhausted. You have one chance, just one, to make this right. Acknowledge what happened. Sanction the Empire, protect our colonies. Or we'll protect ourselves, and we won't care how much of your political order we have to burn down to do it. He turned and started walking toward the exit. Vrathak's voice followed him. You think you can challenge the greatest military empire in the Concordance? You delusional. Jack stopped, turned slowly. And then, in a move no one in the chamber anticipated, Vrathak, 9 feet of obsidian exoskeleton and military pride, strode down from his elevated seat and slapped Jack across the face. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. Jack's head snapped to the side. Blood trickled from his split lip. For exactly 2 seconds, nobody moved. Then Jack's hand shot out, grabbed Vrathak's arm, and used the Krethian's own momentum to throw him forward. The alien counselor stumbled, off balance, and Jack's other hand came up in a strike that should have been impossible. Humans weren't supposed to be strong enough to crack Krethian exoskeleton. But Jack had trained for 5 years, had studied Krethian anatomy, had learned exactly where the stress points were. His palm strike hit the joint between Vrathak's skull plates with surgical precision. The crack was audible across the chamber. Vrathak dropped, ichor leaking from the fracture in his exoskeleton. Jack stood over him, breathing hard, blood from his own wound dripping onto the marble floor. That, he said quietly, was a warning. Next time it won't be. He looked up at the assembled council. You have 72 hours to make a decision. After that, humanity makes our own. Choose wisely. He walked out. Behind him, the council exploded into chaos, but Jack didn't hear it. He was already thinking 3 moves ahead, because the real war, the one that would decide humanity's survival, was just beginning. Krethian Empire, Imperial Command High Admiral Rithmal stood before the Krethian War Council, his 4 arms gesturing to tactical displays that showed the scope of the disaster. 37 privateering bases destroyed, 12 intelligence outposts compromised, 4 military supply depots reduced to debris. And now Vrathak humiliated in front of the entire concordance. His mandibles clicked with barely suppressed rage. These humans have made us look weak. They must be crushed. Absolutely. Completely, the War Council, 20 of the Empire's most senior military commanders, rumbled their agreement. Assemble the 2nd and 4th fleets, Rithmal ordered. 300 capital ships. We will jump directly into human space and reduce their pathetic 16 colonies to ash. Let the Concordance issue their toothless sanctions. By the time they finish debating, humanity will be extinct. One of the younger admirals, Krelth, raised a claw hesitantly. High Admiral, the humans have demonstrated sophisticated intelligence capabilities and unexpected combat effectiveness. Perhaps we should. Are you suggesting we fear a species that's been in space for less than 2 decades? I'm suggesting we don't underestimate them. They clearly planned this campaign for years. They knew our protocols, our fleet movements, Enough! Rithmal's voice cut like a blade. The only thing humans have demonstrated is the ability to conduct cowardly hit-and-run attacks against isolated outposts. When they face the full might of the Imperial fleet in open combat, they will learn what real warfare means. He activated a holographic countdown. 72 hours. That's what the human Commander Reeves gave the Concordance to make a decision. We'll give him 48. In 2 days, we jump. And we don't stop until every human world is a graveyard. UES Command Carrier Defiance. 36 hours later, Jack stood in the war room, surrounded by his senior staff, watching the Krethian fleet assemble at the Tertian sector staging area. 300 capital ships, enough firepower to level a dozen civilizations, all pointed at humanity. They're not even trying to hide it, Marcus Webb said quietly. Looks like they're planning a direct assault, probably targeting our core colonies. Jack studied the tactical overlay. They're angry, emotional, making strategic decisions based on pride instead of logic. He pulled up Earth's defensive positions, which means they're predictable. Sarah Chen, attending via holographic link from the Retribution, leaned forward. Sir, 300 ships. We have 87 combat-capable vessels spread across our entire defensive network. Even with our technological advantages, the math is brutal. Then we don't fight them head-on. Jack pulled up a new display. Remember Phase 2 that I mentioned to the Concordance? Time to implement it? He activated a star map showing the Krethian Empire's infrastructure. The 2nd and 4th fleets are the Empire's premier forces. Elite crews, best equipment, decades of experience. They're pulling them from garrison duty across 40 systems. Which leaves those systems vulnerable, Marcus said slowly. Exactly. They're concentrating force to teach us a lesson. Classic Imperial arrogance. They assume we'll defend our colonies and they can crush us in a decisive battle. Jack smiled. But we're not going to defend, we're going to attack. He pulled up coordinates deep in Krethian space. This is the Kelthara shipyard. It's where the Empire builds 70% of their capital ships. It's also where they've stored the backup command and control systems for their military networks. He looked at his staff. If we can knock it out, we cripple their fleet coordination for months. Sir, one of his tactical officers objected, Kelthara is 300 light-years inside Krethian territory. It's surrounded by defensive stations. There's no way to get a fleet that deep without being detected. Which is why we're not sending a fleet. Jack pulled up new data. Captain Rodriguez's experience at Theta Proxima proved that small, fast ships can accomplish what larger forces can't. We're going to take that concept and scale it up. I'm talking about 15 stealth corvettes, specially configured for deep penetration raids. They jump in, hit the shipyard's critical systems, and jump out before the defenders can respond. It's still suicide, Sarah Chen said. Even if they reach the target, escaping afterwards won't be necessary. Jack's expression hardened. The ships will be configured for one-way trips, skeleton crews, volunteers only. They get in, they complete the mission, and then they use the emergency escape pods to scatter across the system. We've already established protocols for search and rescue operations in hostile territory. The room went silent. Jack continued. I know what I'm asking. I know the odds. But if we try to defend against 300 ships in a straight fight, we lose. Every colony, every civilian, everything we've built. This is the only way to shift the odds back in our favor, Marcus spoke carefully. And if the volunteers don't make it back, then they'll have saved billions of lives. And we'll make damn sure the galaxy remembers their names. Jack turned to face his assembled officers. I'm not ordering anyone to do this, I'm asking. Who's willing to take this mission? Every hand in the room went up, including Jack's. Concordance Council, emergency session. 24 hours before Crethian fleet departure, Counselor S.H. Lara stood before her peers, her scales displaying patterns of determination and fear. I move for immediate sanctions against the Crethian Empire. Full economic embargo, military assets frozen, peacekeeping forces deployed to protect human colonies, and a formal investigation into state-sponsored terrorism. The chamber erupted. You can't be serious. Economic consequences would be catastrophic. Humans manipulated you with their propaganda. S.H. Lara's voice cut through the noise, amplified by the chamber's acoustics. I was complicit in genocide. Silence fell. My nephew received a distress call from New Guangzhou. 300 people were dying. He was close enough to intervene in minutes. And he marked it as non-critical because this council established policies that valued political convenience over lives. Her scales flickered through patterns of shame. I watched the footage. I saw children murdered while a concordance vessel flew past, and I realized that every death is on us, on me. She activated a holographic display. The humans provided irrefutable evidence, bank records, communication logs, testimony from captured officers. The Crethian Empire orchestrated a campaign of systematic attacks against civilian populations, and we did nothing. We prioritized trade relationships. We worried about political complications. We let thousands die because protecting them was inconvenient. The Empire will retaliate, Threnok warned. Economic sanctions could destabilize half the concordance. They're already mobile.